You're listening to Your Terms, the podcast, for anyone done playing by the rules and ready to run life, business, and everything in between on their own terms.
We're your hosts. I'm Ray, a real estate investor,
And I'm Cori, a lawyer.
raising families, closing deals, and boarding flights, and doing it all with style and strategy.
So, whether you're building your empire,
Breaking cycles,
or just trying to make it through to Monday, welcome to the space where power meets purpose.
this is Your Terms. Now let's get it started.
Guys, welcome back to Your Terms. And this time we're talking about getting started from wherever you have started. And for us, a lot of times you think started from the bottom. Now I'm here. And I think it's important just to know that everybody starts someplace. And for a lot of us, the bottom is looked at like down, but it can be a real win. So I wanted to see, right, where did you start? Because we know you've gone to great success now, but how you look today may not look like how you started.
Yeah, I started from some very humble beginnings. So I always tell people, I think we might have chatted about it for like 30 seconds on the last podcast. Most of us were supposed to be statistics, right? And I was one of those people that were supposed to be that statistic. I should have been like doing something, a 9 to 5 or something that I probably shouldn't have been doing because that's some of the path that I've seen of the people that were in my life. So my grandma raised me all by herself. So she was a single grandparent. My parents were there, so they weren't like the typical story of like, oh, they were drug addicts or anything of that nature. But my dad was in prison, at the time growing up, and my mom was living her life. So I was sitting on the doorsteps being raised by my grandma, right?
Yeah.
So no one would ever expect me to be who I am today. But my grandma, I definitely give her a lot of credit, and my parents, I give my grandma a lot of credit because she did show me love. She did show me everything that a child should have got to be able to have that start. But she was very, very strict, and she did the best she could as a grandparent that was full Indian, Indian and African American. She was raised a little bit different than how she raised us. She only made it to the 7th grade before she had to kind of drop out and work, for a living and did different things. And she didn't really talk a lot about her background. So I just had to like get things here and there and listen to be able to understand why she pushed me so hard, right? So it looked different coming from St. Paul, Minnesota. I lived in the urban area, or what people call the hood.
Yeah, you can call
right?
it the hood. You can call it the hood.
Yeah,
We're
I can call it
friends
the
here. You
hood.
can call it the hood.
But a lot of these viewers are like, where's a hood at in Minnesota? There is a hood in Minnesota.
Everywhere.
Right? Everywhere,
Rest assured.
And just having the family that like was very big impact in my life, no matter if they were living a very successful life or non-successful, or if they were legit or if they weren't legit, they still instilled a lot of stuff inside of me. So I'll say a little bit more in a little while, but tell me where you started from.
Well, you know what is funny when you were saying that? What I really thought about is you can hear somebody's story, and I have a client, he always started with me, and he's like, I started from nothing, and I will give full credit to my family and where I came from, because my mom's a doctor and my grandfather's a doctor, and so I started with a huge leg up. I would be doing them a disservice, not just in the fact that I was well loved and that they gave me everything I needed to start running. But they also taught me to work really hard. But at the same time, part of my family has this expectation. Part of my family, some of them are everybody has degrees, and some of them nobody has degrees. And that's all fine too. Like, there is no perfect place to start. And sometimes when you start ahead, that can be a disadvantage too, because then you have an expectation that life is going to give things to you that really life is like, well, it's here. It's available to you, but not that it's gifted to you. You still have to run and work hard and push through obstacles. So I had a super great start, well loved, well cared for. Always was taught to work hard, but I also had a baby at 21 in the middle of college, a baby that I took back to college with me to finish college and to get a master's degree. And so from the point in my family, okay, you want to have that baby? Oh, and you're taking your baby back to college? Well, that means you're grown up and you need to make grown up decisions, and you need to get a job and work and pay for that baby. Your life as an adult starts now. So I always tell people, like, I had a great run when I was in college, obviously I had a great one, right? I was pregnant at 20. But from the point that I was pregnant, it was like, go figure stuff out, because moms have to do this. Moms work. Moms put their kids first. Moms, have money to pay the bills, and you have to find daycare and find this and that. And so very early, they were like, okay, well, that's your decision, and we're going to respect it, and we're going to let you make it. So go figure it out. And so that motivation to me changed a path where I may have thought, okay, well, I could just take a regular job and work 10 years before I get this next promotion, or I can, take a more traditional path. I was like, I don't have time for that. We have to skip over some steps, because there's nothing like being broke and trying to put your kid in daycare, or being broke and trying to get your car fixed, that you're like, oh, this is for the birds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to make some money by tomorrow, because just nothing's coming easy. And the reality of having to not just take life for granted and not go at just like the world's pace, having to set a pace and chase it, changed the trajectory of my life. And even when I look at, my kids, and I'm like, why don't you want to do this? And why aren't you thinking about that? And they don't have to. When I had to, at an early age, make decisions, and grown-up decisions that I think some people don't have to make.
Yeah, but I think that made us better. I too had a child at 21 years old. That child actually had a heart defect, which made it even harder for me. So I had to juggle life at 21 along with a child that had, open heart surgeries and medication and, different stuff. He didn't need a lot when he was younger. Honestly, that surgery did a lot for him. Most of his need came when he was older. But I think we also, before we go into more detail, I like how you said I have to give him homage or credit or whatever. A lot of times we get stuck in the story of like you said, we started from the bottom, or how society wants to hear more what we came from than where we're at, because that's kind of what they relate to. And then a lot of the younger generation only want to see where we're at with the fancy cars and everything else. And I think that you need a healthy mix of both, right?
Yeah.
I too had successful family members. I mean, aunts and cousins that were in medical field, worked for the state of Minnesota, was, head in social work and different stuff like that. So I had them in different categories. But as far as my immediate humble beginnings, it didn't look like that. And my grandma made sure hey, I'm going to keep you very humble, because I'm going to keep you on the level, not stop me, but I'm not going to let you go out and get all this fancy stuff, because I can't maintain that. When you get in life and you're able to get it yourself and you can maintain it, then you get it. But where you're at now, I need you to understand how to live with inside of your means. And for me, people look at us as entrepreneurs and where we're at in life and say they've never been broke. Oh, they've never been at the bottom. They've never been this. That's what really pushed me into I have to own my own business. I have to be able to control my own destiny, because being broke, as old people used to say, is for the birds, right? It was hard living paycheck to paycheck, and your car break down all of a sudden. You're oh, I'm living good, and then your car break down.
It's what's
oh,
the
you're
deal? One tire.
Yeah, one tire. Let me go find a used tire. Matter of fact, or going from that to where we are now, where it's hey, where's Rudy's? Shout out to Rudy's, because he helped me out. Rudy's car tire place where I can get me a used tire to get till tomorrow. To hey, I'm just gonna drop it off at the Range Rover dealership or the BMW dealership or whatever. It's a big difference, you know what I mean? And still, sometimes when I go to those places, I'm for instance, my son, his car just broke down. I'm hey, take it to the Mercedes dealership. Took it to Mercedes dealership. He sent me the bill. I was you could get this, go to Discount Tire for this.
There's a Groupon right, for that.
There's another for this, right? So no matter how much money we have or where we got in life, I do want people to understand that even people that are way richer than us, we're still making decisions on what we learned when we were growing up. I get we want our car to be BMW, Range Rover, Maserati certified, but if it don't make sense, it does not make sense.
Yeah, I'm the sale queen of America. I have retained a certain amount of cheapness in certain areas, and everybody's cheap where they want to be. But I think the challenge to me, and the challenge I'm going to say to you guys as viewers, is what do you appreciate? I think from those humble beginnings, whatever your story is, it's easy to say, I'm behind because I don't have this or that. But it's as easy to say, what did I have? what do I appreciate? And maybe it's not glamorous, but those stories where you were at the table with your family, that is
Yep.
something to have love, to have experiences, to know what a bottom is and a baseline is that you can always move from, or know, or are motivated to never return there. Those are presents, even though they're not in the pretty shiny wrapping, but having that history and that background of the struggle is what makes things amazing as things go on. And some of what I look back and appreciate, like, haha, you remember when we was eating that bologna sandwich, and me and my college roommates laugh at
I
our
like mine a little
brokenness.
burnt.
Yeah, we laugh at being like, oh, it's $1 wings today, so like a round up, we're gonna order 20. We're gonna get 2 Subway sandwiches that'll last us for 4 days, and then we got ramen on Friday, and and we're gonna beg on Saturday.
I remember being in my first year of college, and it was a young man. He was Muslim, but he was from like St. Louis or something, and he taught us how to make ramen like 20 different ways. He was like, you can make it lasagna, you can make it this. Yeah. He taught us how you put it perfectly in the microwave and it stays together, but it's soft. And then you put the red sauce on it and everything. Like, he taught us. Now, he came from a little more humble beginnings than us, but he taught us some stuff
gourmet
that we would live
probably
with
could
from
be
a
selling
lifetime.
that right now.
You never know. I haven't talked to him. He may be he may have a whole restaurant out here.
Yeah.
Like, you never know. But thanking the people that like helped us to get to where we are, I think that sometimes that's something that we forget because we look at it like, well, we went out and we learned this on our own. But like I said, my grandma may not have been able to teach me a lot, but she taught me love.
Yeah.
Even if society kind of took it away from me and made me a little tougher, she taught me how to be a woman, because that's the biggest thing she pushed was women don't sleep past 8 o'clock. You need to get up, right? And even if you never get married, I'm gonna train you how to be a wife, like, because that's how older people looked at things. They looked at marriage, they looked at love, they looked at business, and they kind of went about their values different than how we did. They stuck to them, where we let society kind of take it away from us at times, or our busy work schedules. Having a child with a heart defect definitely made me feel like I had a couple more obstacles to get through. Like, not being raised in a 2-parent household or by my parents was something that was very hard for me, that I held on to, that I realized I had to go to therapy at one point to get rid of, because that impacted my life. I was holding on to all this dead anger that I needed to
let it go.
Yeah, to let go. But I think that most importantly, me growing up the way that I grew up, with the hard times and the lesser beginnings than some, made me the person that I am today. And not just a success, but when my life kind of hit, divorce, or it hit brain tumor, or my son needed a pacemaker. If I wouldn't have been through the struggles that I went through when I was younger, I probably would have folded already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It would have been like, you know what? I can't do this no more.
Pressure makes
Lord,
diamonds.
go ahead and bring me on home.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But because of those humble beginnings, because of quote unquote starting from the bottom and, going through hard times, it made me stronger. And people don't talk about that part. Like, everybody may not start off in rough beginnings. They may start off with, being spoon fed, that neither one of us technically was, right? We went through broke. But the hard times that they went through, regardless of it's their parents getting divorces when they were younger, or, our kids are going through some hard times. We're not, just because our lives is good right now, it doesn't mean that our kids are just out here like, oh, we got the best lives. They still have a struggle. And those struggles that they're going through now are going to make them better individuals, better parents, moms and dads, and just a better overall in, business and as a person.
I think it's like this story we present, and everybody talks about like bootstrapping yourself, and it becomes a bit of a fairy tale. But the truth is, everybody kind of starts at the bottom of your own life.
Of their own bottom.
You are at your own baseline, and what somebody else has got and someone else didn't have doesn't matter. Like, you have to learn how to wash that stuff away, because it's not going to spending your life jealous of someone because they started with something you didn't start with. Head starts are nice, and I'm not going to negate it like, oh, okay, it doesn't matter. But it's kind of like life. What matters is the dash in between. You can start, some really amazing people a lot of really amazing people have had very, very humble beginnings, but what they did in between with that time and realizing like no matter where you start from, you can get someplace extraordinary if you use the in between time, your time, to do amazing things. So you all start at the bottom. I tell my son all the time, people are like, oh, he's a young king. And I'm like, he is a stable boy. Okay. Around here in this kingdom, to make yourself king, you betray the qualities of a king. You are not granted kingdomship. You're not granted kingdom because I'm a queen. I worked hard to become this. And you can become a king, but you have to work hard. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes discipline to become those things if you want it in life. So it's no just, oh, my mom was a lawyer, so I should be a lawyer. No, I worked my butt off to go through law school at night, to work all through school, no summers off. Like I worked my butt off to give you this life. And if you want something similar, you work your butt off to get what you want. Because I'm working for what I wanted and how I visioned my life. And now it'll be tasked to you. Because if you think, my son will be like, oh, I want a Maserati. I'm like, oh, it sounds like you want to work real hard. Because I'm not about to buy you a Maserati. I don't care what the zeros were in my bank account. I just don't believe in that kind of empowering. I want my kids to be baby birds that fly on their own. And so I think when we just, appreciate like where you started, no matter what it was, something was beautiful about your life, even if that was just learning to depend on yourself.
Yeah.
And then think about the in between. What are you doing? What's your hustle like? What, don't just focus on, I didn't have this, so I can't ever be that. And that's why I thought this topic was important, because I think people think, oh, you guys have that. You don't understand my story and you don't understand the struggle and all the reasons I'm telling myself I cannot do it. When you can, like nothing stopped. There's no difference between whoever you are and wherever you think you are and where we are, other than our mindset and our decision to do things different.
Yeah, I think the most important part of my life that was a big turn in life and helped me to become where I am started off with $46 in my pocket.
Right. Money bag, yo, right?
Right. It started off with like frustration and everything else. So it didn't, I had help here and there. And saying what you said about like, don't think harsh on your beginnings. Like I appreciate mine. I'm the one that I love those conversations when it's time to have like, oh, did you get a whooping for not cleaning up the kitchen? Did you like those things impacted my life? And we sit here now and we laugh and we talk about, about her. Like, my grandma didn't used to let me go many places. So I'll be stuck on the doorsteps. Well, those friendships of people that came and sat on those doorsteps with me are everlasting friendships.
Yeah.
So if I would have been raised in a house that I could do whatever I wanted to, I wouldn't be, had those people impact my life of friends that could do whatever they wanted to, that made sure they came and sat with me instead of running the streets and having fun. They're like, we're going to go sit with my friends, and they're still friends till today.
Yeah.
So you have to look at those little things and appreciate where you became, drinking. Well, we were talking, I don't know if it was me and you talking the other day, how when we went outside, I personally went outside, we would drink out of the water fountain sometimes.
No,
because
out the
we
hose.
didn't want to.
The hose.
The hose. That's what I meant.
The
out
hot hose.
The hose. The water hose is what I meant. Out the water hose to stop from going back in, so we wouldn't have to be stuck inside. If somebody say stop coming in. I'm not air conditioning the whole street, right? All those terms that we go on. Another thing that you touch bases is about people saying that Bronx is a young king. I always tell my kids, like, this is a rental space for you. Like, this room is mine. You're just renting it until you're 18 years old, right? And this refrigerator, this is my refrigerator. And I'm not being funny about it, but it is. I need them to understand, like, it's a privilege to be able to do this, because I work hard to pay this rent for you to be able to have this room. But this room does not stay yours for the rest of your life. So you have to focus on learning the discipline of taking the trash out and doing the dishes and keeping your room clean, so that when you're 18 years old, you can have the discipline of going to class, at college on your own, living in your dorm. So when you're 25 and you're starting your own family, you can have the discipline to having a job and being able to keep up with your bills. So it starts somewhere. And if we teach them, like, this is yours and the world is yours and you can have it all, and don't give them, a taste of kind of what we had, then they're going to end up not being able to manage their lives.
Yeah.
Another side of things, I can't agree with the people that say, and I quote, I got it out of the mud or from the bottom, and so my kids need to. I don't agree with that. I do believe that we work this hard to be able to pass a baton to our kids. And legacy and generational wealth does not start by you putting your kids back where you started off from. Someone has to make it further than you in life, right? So we teach them and we lead them to where they need to be. And when we get to this point and we pass it off. I'm passing mine off through trust that you created and different stuff like that. But I'm also saying, hey, don't give all them kids that money right when I go. Give it in portions so that they know how to manage it. But I want them to be further up so that their kids can work, because I believe that I am doing this for my grandkids and their kids, not just for me and my kids right now.
Yeah, I think that's a weird. I don't think you like started from the mud. I think everybody's mud is different, right? Like personalized. I think I've learned as a parent some of the things that I naturally learned to do because I did not want my mom to know. Like the key, if any problem I had, if I got in trouble or I did something bad or wrong, my first thought was like, please don't let FloJo find out. Please don't let Florence Wooten find out I did this. I got in trouble. XYZ, she's going to blow a gasket. So I learned how to get myself out a lot of things because it was a non-option for me. Like, I don't care who you got to call. You're not going to call my mom. No matter what I do wrong. Like, no, let's talk about it. And so I've learned that in response, or what I think was an upgrade in parenting was like, let me figure this out for you. Let me give you this support. Let me do this and that. But the truth is, just for people in general, as I believe it now, is that you have to fail. You have to take your own path and fall on your face sometimes. And that's part of the learning. And so when we say like the struggle, our struggles may have been the life of a single mom, the life of a young entrepreneur. And our kids' struggle may be different, but the struggle is important. It teaches you tenacity. It teaches you about yourself and who you are as a person and your capabilities. And so if we as parents are always there for support and the figuring out of things, then they don't get that. You talked about your son. I've definitely stopped on the freeway and some like strangers helped me, and then when I find out it was because I didn't have any gas in my car, right? It was a lesson. It was like, that won't ever happen to me again, because I took that lesson and fell on my face. And my mom worked like 10 hours, so even if I had called her, she would not have come. She'd have been like, you sound like you on the freeway until I'm off, right? But she let me learn my lessons. I took those losses because I didn't want her to find out of fear, out of embarrassment. And that was probably just in my own mind. But I'm learning that I could have given my daughter more space to learn her lessons on her path. That's not me wanting to push her down. That's me just seeing the path and seeing the value in the lessons when they're self-learned.
I agree. I do think they have to learn things. I had a cousin that I did like a lot for, and she lost like all the stuff that I did for her, right? And it made me realize that, okay, well, sometimes like if they go out and they get it on their own, it's more appreciated because they put in the hard work, right? But what I also learned from the experience of my child pulling over to the side of the road when his engine light came on and nothing was technically wrong with his car worth stopping, was that there is some things that we do skip right past. Right. So do he need to learn some things on his own? You know, is he a little bit more spoon fed when I mean like directional, not like money, but is he a little more spoon fed than he should be? Yes. Does he need to learn some stuff on his own? Yes. But is there some things that we could sit down and actually teach them? There is some things, and there's no book. I wish it was like a book like, hey, they're first grade, teach them this, they're second grade. But if we sat back and kind of looked at the things that we learned on our own and say like, hey, we're not going to give them all the answers, but at least let's point them in the right direction so that they can worry about the other problems, because the problems in this day and age is way different. Right? So let us give you the things that we learned so that you could fall on your face with this new generation stuff that we don't even know the answers to, to give them to you, right?
I think that's just transparency too, though, right? And so there's no way to teach everybody every lesson, because half the time, like, they're half forgotten until you're like, oh yeah, I remember that one time that happened to me, right? And so there's no way to like give them everything that you stored in your brain. But I think having just transparent conversations with them is important. Not, I'm going to like, we hear problems. I'm gonna blame this on myself as a parent. I hear a problem and my brain starts thinking about like, what's the solution? And then sometimes the problem can just be the problem, and you can just be a listener and be like, I can't tell you what to do, but here's some part of me in my life. And some of those lessons that you have to give is not giving them the answer. It's giving them, like, I thought about this, I went through that. And I feel like, especially older generations you talk about, I think it was like said unsaid. You don't know. I don't know what my grandmother went through at all. No. I don't know. She had good times, bad times. I know, like, my mom told me she took care of her mom who had cancer. I took care of my mom who had cancer. What an amazing conversation that would have been to have some reference with my grandmother about her experiences there. But it was like, we don't talk about bad times. Yeah. We only focus on good times. So sharing just not the, when my car broke down, I did XYZ, but like, hey, when my car broke down, I felt this way. I had to learn this. I had to move here, because that's the real lesson. Cars may, be electric, and my gas broke down and you need to get your car charged. I may not be able to give you that exact answer, but I can tell you, like, yo, that sucks. Like, I remember when that happened to me and I felt horrible. I felt stupid. And here's how I came up from it, or here's how I, changed the trajectory of where I was going. I think that transparency to our kids is super valuable.
And what the thoughts were going through our head while we were going through it, everything else. I was listening to someone on a podcast, and we think we're doing it right. And then someone says something, and we're like, oh, man.
Oh, Lord. Oh, that's a good idea. Why did you tell me that 20 years ago?
21 years ago, you should have told me this. But something simple as saying, like, stop teaching your kid how to live now and teach them how to live without you, right? And we think that's what we're doing. But, I think both of us are guilty, even though we're pretty hard on our kids, and, we try to point them in the right path as much as possible. We still teach them, like, we still help them in areas to make it easier for them, right? Like, okay,
well, easy for us.
Easy for us. That's probably what it is. Yeah. So that because we, even when he called, it's like, okay, get to the shop, tell me how much, and get, because I don't want to think about it, right? Right. So I was making it easier for me, even though it was easier for him, having to pay for it. But then you stop and you say, like, if we were to leave today, are our kids prepared? I think they have somewhat of direction, but I don't think they're prepared. Like, I was talking to him yesterday, like, I'm only helping you so that you know how to live without me, because I've heard this a couple, weeks ago. And I was like, if something happened to me, you think you were prepared to help yourself? Or do you think you're prepared to help your kid, your brothers and sisters? Yeah. Because what if you had to step in? What if Cheyenne had to step in for Bronx? Are they prepared? Those are the things that we have to look at.
Yeah. But preparation is like a skill set, right? And so I've learned, I'm trying. I don't want to say I've learned. I am learning. I am learning. I'm becoming, where I'm like, she tells me a problem. I'm like, oh, well, what are you going to do about it? What are your options? Like, okay, you think that one's a good idea? And then just being like, she has these paths in front of us, and like, we all have paths, and our paths have led us here. And I'll hear her saying, I'm going to take the wrong path. And my brain instantly wants to say, that is the worst path I've ever heard of in my life. And why would you do that? And I've had to learn to say, oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. And if it doesn't work out for you, I'm here to kind of give you a different, my perspective of a different direction, because we don't want to say the right way, right? Because now we're telling them that their path isn't right. Yeah. And their path may end up turning correctly, because you have to think about, like, everything about me, most of my family thought was wrong. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's crazy. Why would you do something like that? Why would you be an entrepreneur? Why would you do this? Why would you leave the state of Minnesota? Blah, 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 blah. And I listened to them, and there's nothing wrong with it, because those answers probably worked out for somebody else. But everything about what they said I couldn't do and how I couldn't do it actually worked out. And so when I look at some of the things that our kids say, I'm not going to discredit them, because what happens if in this time, that's how the direction it's supposed to go? Yeah. Right. But the way we grew up, it wouldn't have worked for us. Right. And so as parents, we just have to make sure we allow people to have their bottom. Right. So long story short, I believe is that, like you said, we are better people because of our humble beginnings. I wish we had more time to kind of really touch bases on who we were, because we kind of got into conversation and we missed out on, like, the hard parts, or how, the roadblocks that we have now that could have helped people and that really impacted our life as well. But is there anything you want to touch bases on before we leave?
Yeah. No, I guess I would say, wherever you think you are, if you think you're way at the bottom, or you don't see the progression to get where you want to go, stop and appreciate it. And I think that's a step up. Like, if you don't do anything today but just appreciate what you have, you can start tomorrow off in a different light, in a different path, and on a different stair. So that's what I say. Everybody has their own starting place, and wherever you are right now, just consider that the bottom as you work your way up. But appreciate the present, and it gets you a little bit better off.
Yeah. So I agree. Respect where you guys are at right now. Appreciate where you guys are at right now. And the most important thing is when you see us or anyone else on Instagram and think that we're just amazing people that never started from any type of a bottom, just know that we did. And those bottoms are probably what made us successful today. This was an amazing time with you guys. And once again, make sure you send in questions, topics, and if there's anyone out there that actually want to join us and come on a guest appearance on the podcast, please let us know. Email us at
info@yourtermspodcast.com
or go to Instagram at Your Terms Podcast.
All right, we'll see you guys soon.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Your Terms, where we don't just talk about it, we live it.
If something resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who is ready to live louder, bolder, and freer.
And this isn't just our conversation. We want to hear from you. Come find us on Instagram at Your Terms Podcast and tell us how you're making moves on your terms.
We're building a community, and you've got a seat at the table.